Super Mario 74 Extreme Edition's 10th anniversary is coming up. I released on December 25th, 2012 to ruin people's holidays. It was the first Extreme or Kaizo Mario 64 hack with custom level models, the OG Ego Killer. I'll show the old Sketchup projects and give behind the scenes information, plus a 1 to 5 star rating from a 2012 perspective. By today's standards, most of them would suck pretty badly, but we'll put on our retro glasses for this video. If you want to know the history of SM64 hacking, check out the behind the scenes video I made for the original SM74. I made 74EE over the course of 2012 and most of it was done pretty quickly, since I only needed to edit existing level models for the most part. That's one of the reasons why I made the hack in the first place. The recycling of assets made everything very time efficient, so it was pretty much guaranteed that I would be able to finish the hack. Plus it was the perfect time for me personally. I had just finished school and there was a gap of several months until university started. I almost made the entire hack in this time, which is roughly half a year. When university started, only the last Bowser level was missing and that one took 3 months on its own, because my spare time has shrunk tremendously. But enough history, let's jump into the level models. If there is a level specific sketch I will show it, but there are only a few for EE since most levels are just the 74 version with some adjustments. Here we have the first Overworld. I'll handle everything in the order you'll encounter them in when playing the game. And this video is less scripted than the other, so please excuse that this video isn't super polished. Anyways, the Overworld. If you compare it to the original version, I replaced the water with lava and the grass dried up to give it an immediate dangerous look. I may have used lava a bit excessively in early areas. You may notice that all reused models are mirrored, so they feel quite a bit different and it was basically no work for me. Peak efficiency. Some notable things about the Overworld are that there were more warp spots than in the original SM74, so I could place more levels in the Overworld and have respawn points near the actual level entrances. At least for the first and third Overworld. So I put the wing cap right here and course 9 there, where they were supposed to be in SM74. The hacking tools back then lacked a lot of features, so I was happy that user Zentrax added some warps for me. If you played the game you'll know that there's a glitchy texture right here and I was too lazy to fix it. To this day I still don't know what exactly causes textures to glitch out like that. Overall 2.5 out of 5 stars for this level model. And now let's go to course 1. Course 1, Devil's Dice. It has a very similar visual style to the first Overworld. One side note on why this level is so tiny: the original level importer didn't allow imports that exceeded the replaced level's boundaries. Or to be more precise, the model itself could be imported, but the invisible walls of the original level may be inside of the new level. And when I made Dice Fortress for SM74, the model wasn't centered in Sketchup, and I didn't know that this had an effect, so I could only use a quarter of Bowen Battlefield's size. One positive thing that had occurred near the end of SM74's development was that the importer now allowed to import 4,500 triangles instead of 2,500. That allowed me to add some more details to the level. At the end of EE's development, the limit was doubled again to 9,000 triangles. One small adjustment I made to the model was the removal of this wall, because you could get stuck behind it. In SM74 I placed metal boxes to prevent that. And I didn't have any good ideas for these floating platforms. If you're wondering why there are lines in large faces, which ruin the texture in-game, the simple answer is that faces with many triangles were very likely to glitch out back then, so this was the less bad solution. Out of the missions, I like the tunnel the most, where you either use pro skills or get the shell hidden in this tower, which is the intended way. Though the hidden star 6 is rather cheap. I rate this level 3 stars out of 5. Course 2, Virusvine Veranda. I really dislike SM74's Course 2, but this one's better. I added an underground area for 2 stars, though one is easily cheatable. The infamous Stone Tower Temple music makes a return, so those who played the first hack know that this hack means serious business. Even though it's only the second course, the difficulty is already very high. Personally, I like the visual style of the level. The mossy vine stuff is taking over the stone structure and I think that is kinda unique. But the red coin placements suck, since they force you to redo so much stuff. Crappy game design which is sadly used quite a few times in this hack. 3.5 out of 5. Course 3, Deepred Depths. This is my favorite out of the early levels. One quick fun fact. Deepred Depths is a literal translation of the original German title Tiefrote Untiefen, whereas the SM74 level Asuribus isn't. The translation of Tiefblaue Untiefen would have been Deep Blue Depths. Coming up with names with alliterations and such is always fun to me. When you first enter this level and look down the crater, this looks super intimidating, doesn't it? That's exactly the feeling I wanted to create here. And I really like all missions here, from how you start at the top and then make your way deeper into the level. Though you'll most likely get them out of order because their difficulty is all over the place. One question I've gotten countless times is why did I reuse the same Jolly Roger Bay music? Well, it's a bit hard to explain. To me personally, the feeling of this level isn't that of a place that wants to mercilessly kill you, rather it's a place that, while dangerous nature, like a volcano, you chose to explore it as an adventurer. So I prefer the calmer tone in music, and since there wasn't much to choose from, I just chose JRB. Another noticeable thing are the blue coin switches in this hack. I always tackled them in the same way. I placed the coins by gut feeling and then tried to collect them over and over again. If I failed for 30 minutes, I would adjust the locations. And I almost never did that in the entire hack, so my gut feeling for the blue coins was pretty much on point and I always made them just barely possible, which was my goal back then. And for levels with enough coins, that's alright, but in those without much spare cash or any at all, it's sadly another design sin, like in course 5. But anyways, I give this course a 4.5 out of 5. The Green Switch Palace Toxic Terrace. I hated SM74's Green Switch Palace so much I completely changed it. And the result is, well, a bit better I guess. I still don't really like the level. Every star is quite different, but the difficulty is all over the place and at the end it's all endless lava bounces. The red coins are especially cruel. Getting the ones in this large hole is super ugly and I really should have used more textures. 2 out of 5. Bowser's Beautiful Backyard. So there's one positive thing I can say about this level. I think it's kinda funny that this level went from dark and gloomy to bright and happy. And I guess the stars aren't that bad. But there's one thing that makes people hate this one. The path to Bowser's actually really short, but there's one single jump that is just an absolute roadblock for many people. If you played it, you know what I'm talking about. One single long jump from a thromb right here to this tiny ledge sitting directly beneath a flamethrower. It's really unfair. Oh, and I ran out of star ideas, so I placed one in this corner. I also hate the music, but back then there were only like 10 or 20 new tracks to choose from, and I wanted to pick one of those. 1.5 out of 5. Overworld 2 Lake of the Lords. I hated the original level even more than the metal cap, so I happily ditched it too. And this is what I call an improvement. This is actually really close to my original idea for the second Overworld that I couldn't use back in SM74. There's some extra stuff added around where the Bowser level is located though. The neat thing about this area is that since it replaces a level, I think Ringed Mario or the Rainbow, when you collect a star you keep your red coins. Which is nice when you collect the star on this building, which has a whopping 4 red coins next to it. And some of you may be thinking, what, you get half of the red coins for free? I thought this was supposed to be super hard. And my response to that is that pretty much every red coin star in a level is that level's hardest star, so let at least a few be not a pain in the butt. Now, since this level replaces a level and not an overworld area, the extra warp slots couldn't be applied. But thankfully the layout works in such a way that all level entrances can be reached rather quickly. As for the stars, they are all tricky but quick obstacle courses. Only like 2 to 3 tricky jumps each, and I like that. It's challenging but not overly frustrating. 4 out of 5. Course 4 System of a Downtown, as if the System of a Down pun from SM74 wasn't obvious enough. And I kind of wanted to continue with the naming convention, so I made Remnants of a Town in Lux Delightful Dioramas and Rebuilding of a Town in Lux Tiny Torture. So it tells a bit of a story about this town that has been abandoned and fell into disrepair, only to be rebuilt later on. You may argue that the level looks too different to be considered the same town, and that's a fair argument. Maybe 74 levels are the suburbs and the LDD and the LTT ones are more in the center or something. Anyways, this is a pretty mediocre level because of some design hiccups. There's one issue with this rooftop where you can fall to a lower face beneath it. I don't know whether I removed it in this particular model, but it seems like it. Next, this level is super cheatable, especially Star 5, which is here and ironically called So Close Yet So Far. The intended path is to go into this well, make your way through this tunnel, and then jump down from the top of this building. Or you do a few wall kicks from the start, which isn't even hard. Big fail on my part, I should have added a large fence or something. The other cheatable star is the second one on this cliff. The intended path is again through a tunnel and then you jump up here. Or you do a couple of wall kicks here. I tried to prevent it with the angles of the walls, but it's still possible, making the entire underground section obsolete. The next iffy part is the extended secret room because of severe camera issues. And last but not least, the coins. There are 120 coins total. If you subtract the red coins, it leaves 104. So if you miss a single blue coin, you have to collect at least one red coin, and they are all located in this ugly pit, which should have definitely used more than one texture. So the issue is that all red coins are above quicksand, and you can't get out of the pit again. If you spawn the 100 coin star here, you will die. So if you want to collect hundreds and reds in one go, it's extremely tight. At least the reds on their own aren't that bad. 2 out of 5. Course 5 Drowned Factory. This is probably the most boring level of the hack, which is to be expected for a water level. It's inspired by the DK64 level Gloomy Galleon, which is arguably the most disliked level of that game, so off to a good start. That level has a sunken ship that all 5 Kongs can enter, and inside you swim through some hallways that end up in a central room where you can see the locations the other Kongs can go to, and that's what I tried to recreate at the top here. If you think I can remember which tunnel leads where, the answer is a clear no. While I actually like the level personally, there's one big issue, and like in the last course, it's the coins. There are only 103 and the blue coins are pretty unfair. The switch is here and then 2 coins spawn in this hole. And if you pull it off, there is still the chance that you miss a line of coins under this part down here until the very end, and then the star may spawn out of bounds. While I would personally give this course a 2.5 out of 5, I'll reduce it to a 2 out of 5 to avoid the pitchforks. Dust Destination, the Blue Switch Palace. We are on a run, bad level after bad level. When I first opened this model for a video, I thought it was the SM74 version. I hardly changed anything. But you may not notice it when playing because you can't see shit. The maximum fog intensity was such a stupid idea. The missions are okay, but the visuals are garbage, and that's pretty much all I can say about this level. 1.5 out of 5. Old Supply Slide. The icy slide in SM74 was already very tough, but this one is ultra difficult. There are a few unintentional spots where you can stand, like here and somewhere around here, which you can exploit a bit. The platforming section right here to the purple switch is alright. There's a super precise strategy to jump directly from the slide to the star right here, which frame perfection simply entitled The Shit, and it looks really cool when pulled off correctly. And there's nothing else to say here. 2 out of 5. Course 6 Inferno Pit Cave. Hey, a good level for once. This is quite enjoyable missions. I only wished it was a bit more distinct from the original. The only real model changes are the deeper pits, and the lower chambers are filled with lava now. The red coins between the heave-ho pillars are a bit backtracking heavy. But other than that, there isn't much to complain here. 3.5 out of 5. Maybe even 4 if the visuals were better. Course 7, Melting Icecrystal Tower. This is the first of 5 consecutive courses which all have some sort of climate change theme, and none of that was intentional, which is hilarious. I only noticed it years after I released the hack. So here we have severe ice loss. While SM74's Icecrystal Tower was too hard for the hack, this one fits better. But there are definitely some meanies, especially the invisible secret right here, which is so far away from the other secrets in this area. One nitpick is that I really ran out of ideas and placed 2 hidden stars. The one right here isn't too hard to find. The one beneath the start requires the timed cork boxes for a second time, which always confuses players. 3 out of 5. Course 8, Overgrown Oasis. The second natural disaster is flooding. Though this one actually seems to benefit the plant life. The most interesting piece is this spiral wannabe pyramid. There are 3 methods to get the star, and the intended way is by far the worst one, which is using jump kicks while sliding down. The method that feels intended is crawling. Back then I didn't even know that was possible. And the pro way is to triple jump from the start to the finish. Then there's the red coin maze. It's stupid. The other 4 stars in this half of the level are alright. Though maybe a bit easy, but I think the player appreciates that from time to time. However, the one right here with the metal cap can be annoying when you have to retry it multiple times. But actually that's not an issue, because of course we all play Extreme Edition with save states, wink wink. 3.5 out of 5. Course 9, Fireflower Fields. The next crisis is wildfire. The level is coated in a thick red smoke, but you can still see where you're going. Well, except for the flower field, which is full of holes. Like in Flowery Garden, I really dig the wooden construction. Good stuff. Many people were having trouble with the windmill, which surprised me. I didn't think it was that hard. There are 2 aspects I don't like about the level. One is the red coin in this hole that is below the flowers and that uses the purple switch. It requires a lot of trial and error. But the biggest and unacceptable mistake is right at the start. The endpoints of the bridge railing are untextured. Awful level, unplayable. 3 out of 5. Devil's Pit. The red switch palace is super unremarkable. There are a couple of invisible walls, and that's all I can say. In case you don't know what causes invisible walls, there are 2 kinds. The level boundaries, which are intentional, though if there is no ground in the middle of the level, that will also be considered out of bounds by the game. The other kind is every hacker's enemy. I don't know what they are officially called, I'll just call them unresolved ceilings. These upside down slopes are interpreted as a ceiling, so Mario can't occupy the space above them. Usually that should stop when there is a floor above, but sometimes the game cannot calculate the collision properly, and the ceiling extends to infinity. Anyways, 2 out of 5 for this level. Bowser's Quicksand Pit. Here we have one of the most hated levels of the hack. Most stars are actually fine. The one in the window is really easy, and you can skip this entire tunnel by triple jumping around this wall. But you know, a chain is only as strong as the weakest segment, and that is the thirsty pit. If you do a wall kick on the first frame you hit the wall, your speed increases a lot. And to get the 2 red coins on this platform you need to do 2 consecutive thirsties, and then you have to do it again on the way back. But since we're all using save states mid-jump, that's not an issue, right? Cough cough. One thing you might not know is that there's actually a Bowser fight in this level, believe it or not. The path to him is short and easy, and the fight is easy as well, so nobody remembers him. But that doesn't matter anyways, since you can skip him entirely. Most of you probably already know this. Shortly after the hack's release, it was discovered that you can clip into this pillar and get to the inside section of the 3rd Bowser level, which skips the hardest part of the whole hack. Huge screw up on my end. I had to split up the final level into 2 pieces because it had too many tries, and I didn't want to remove too much. But oh well, I should have placed it under Bowser 1. 1.5 out of 5. The 3rd Overworld, also known as Plasma Temple, has no music and also not much worth discussing. There are 5 signs with background blot, but are cringy as heck, please ignore them. I moved the entrance to course 12 right here. I believe when I made this area I didn't have the warp fix yet, and re-entering course 12 in the original hack was super annoying. I used the formerly unused room for a Toadstar. For more on that, watch the other behind the scenes video. And finally, one thing that sadly didn't work out as intended. I wanted to have the entrance to Triarc Bridge on the Overworld. There's a hole for it right here, which in the end was blocked off by a metal box. This is where the 150 star grill was supposed to be, but I couldn't get it to work. I believe there's a conflict with the object banks. I can't use star doors and castle ground objects at the same time. Oh well. 2 out of 5. Course 10, Breezing Beach. Back to climate change, extremely cold weather, I guess due to a weak jet stream. Better level than Sunny Beach, but still not good. If you ever wondered why I swapped courses 10 and 11, the answer is really simple. I couldn't change water effects. Snowman's Land has the icy water and that is course 10, so Breezing Beach had to be course 10 as well. The biggest sin is the underwater cave. Shitty camera and only one texture. I didn't know the camera was so screwed up because the cave is too close to the surface. Other embarrassing things are the star in this corner because I ran out of ideas again. Though actually I think it's quite funny. The really embarrassing thing is that I forgot that green gemstones are called emeralds. So I used the German word Smaragd and slapped an S at the end. Ruby and Sapphire are almost the same in German, so this one works as well, I thought. It doesn't. So while this level is cringy as heck, I still can't dislike it all that much. The remaining stars are alright. I like the hot pole dance. 2.5 out of 5. Course 11, Dried Out Dead Desert. And finally we have a severe drought. This place is completely void of life, with the sole exception of Cupola Quick. I really like the slightly haunting atmosphere here. One thing probably nobody has ever noticed is that every level has exactly one 1-up, with this course being the only exception. This course doesn't have a 1-up at all. One notable element of the level is the Quicksand Plateau. It has the sole purpose of keeping the camera from going too low while doing wall jumps, which is such a common issue with Mario Cam. Back in the day we didn't have Egglab's 8-angle cam, Mario Cam was the only usable option, but extended wall jumping sections were always a struggle. Like the arch with Star 5. There's no floor directly beneath it, so the camera will unfortunately suck. One side note, this area right here for Star 3 requires a backflip wall kick. And that was actually the place where I figured out that this was even a maneuver that can be performed in the game. One thing that I dislike a bit about this course are again the coins. There are only 106 and the blue coins are really hard, so we'll most likely miss the last of them. That means you have to get all red coins, which is rather tedious. You may know that there are 20 coins on this rooftop, and I kinda wanted to force the player to go there, but I probably should have placed a star instead. Due to the draw distance you can't even see the coin rows from where Star 5 is located, so that's a bit unfair. There's a number of things that could have been better, but overall I still like this course. 3.5 out of 5. Course 12, Cliff of Pain. I hate this level. If you've played it, you know that this is Thirsty City, and that sucks big times. I should have made more adjustments to the model of the rotating Cliff of Wrath. The level is just so unintuitive to traverse. There are many jumps that are only barely possible and they simply aren't fun at all. You need thirsties at the start, you need thirsties in this shaft. The other side at the bottom also requires a super precise jump, and wall jumping to the top can also be very annoying since the parallel walls are very thin. Then the coins have the same issue as in the last course. There are only 107 coins plus one unobtainable one that's stuck in the ceiling. Combined with another blue coin switch that has one extremely tight coin, and it's a recipe for disaster. 1 out of 5, worst level in my opinion. Course 13, Acid Peaks. From the worst level to the ugliest. This just looks like vomit, what was I thinking? Gameplay wise, I think this level is solid though. If only it was a bit easier on the eyes. Back in the first behind the scenes video I already talked about Molten Treasure Chest lacking colors. I mentioned how I should have given the mountains at least slightly different hues. And here I should have used at least more than one color. I've already talked about the entrance to Triarc Bridge, which was supposed to be on the 3rd overworld. Since I had to move the entrance to this level, it can be annoying to re-enter. I apologize for that. One thing that is kind of funny though is that Star 6 is easier than the one in SM74. By a lot actually, I guess that's a fail on my end. 3 out of 5. Course 14, Veneno Sphere. Or Veneno or Veneno, I don't care how you pronounce it. Many people think that this course is Luminium Sphere rotated by 90 degrees, but if you compare it to the map of Luminium Sphere, you'll notice that it's mirrored as well. It was intentional though. The level importer always flips the level during the import, and I guess I didn't pay enough attention, or only noticed it after I already placed objects. Crudelo Sphere is also flipped, by the way. So Luminium and Ombro are each other rotated, and Veneno and Crudelo are each other rotated. As for Lavora and Barotrock Sphere, I leave it as an exercise for the viewer to figure out in which team they are. For 5 seconds. Pause now and make your guess. The correct answer is that both Lavora and Barotrock are rotations of Veneno and Crudelo. But enough about that. How did I make Veneno Sphere, considering that this rotation wasn't planned at first? Well, this isn't some smart wizardry or anything, I just picked the path from bottom to top and adjusted the parts where it didn't work. It's very easy. Let me walk you through the potential thought process. So, starting at the bottom, I wanted to have 1 star in this hole in every rotation, and at first you could just take the direct path. That's too easy, so I removed some parts of the starting platform, forcing the player to take a detour. Then I checked whether you can get to the top of the bottomless fortress section, and yes you can. Next question, can you get on the bridge to the other side? The answer was no, so extrude some elements, add a metal box here because I had trouble getting up, and that's this section done. Going to the other side is trivial, and then you need to get up here. Can you get up there without adjustments? Well, actually yes. From this battlement to the sideways rooftops right here. But I either didn't get it to work or thought it was too difficult to find, so I made flat ground here and extruded there, and voila, you can progress. By the way, the intended path to star 3 over here is to do wall kicks on this little wall piece. But there were collision issues, so I added metal boxes to get the wall jumps to function. However, many people thought the boxes were there to block the way and ended up jumping over the other side with a triple jump. Another path that I didn't even see when making the level. Okay, so now you can get up to this point, and that's where the path ends entirely. In hindsight, I could have placed star 3 here and instead of the wall block make a path up here to the top. That would have been an interesting alternative, but I settled for the warp block and the rest is straightforward again. The overall linear structure forces the player to repeat a lot of the path of the 6 missions, and it's completely fair to criticize that. But I think this provides the value of pushing the player further and further, at least for those few who played without save states. For everyone else, yeah, not the best design. It could have been a bit better, but in the end it's still my favorite level of the hack. 4.5 out of 5. Oh, and I like the eerie riddle tower music from Paper Mario 2. That gives the level a bit of an otherworldly, uneasy feel. Did I just forget to mention that there are 14 red coins? I guess I did. Course 15, Crudelo Sphere. Welcome to arguably the most infamous Mario 64 hack level. It may have long lost its status as the hardest level, but it's still pretty dang hard. And to really intimidate the player, I placed the start right at the top so Mario falls for several seconds when entering, giving you a first glimpse of what you'll have to climb. I wonder what the legacy of this level would have been had I not screwed up the last Bowser level. Because Crudelo Sphere was never meant to be the hardest level. I'll talk more about that later. First, let's follow the path you'll take through the level, which from this side view is pretty much an S shape. Starting at the bottom again, I removed most of the ground since there was no point in having it. You can see star 1 right from the start and it's really close, but unlike System of a Downtown you actually have to take the long way around. If you've seen anything of this level you probably know that the intro is really tough. One error I made here is placing the death barrier too high. so the plane that triggers the fade out is actually higher than the lowest part of this thin path. So you need to stay over solid ground there to not accidentally trigger it. Then there's an amp, a flamethrower, a triple jump around this pillar, a few wall kicks, and then this platform with a flame spewing ball. That's a lot to ask of the player right at the beginning, and since you have to repeat that for every star, you'll probably hate this section, and rightfully so. And then the path ended, so I had to extrude some pieces from the wall, but they turned out way too small and I hate it. Then you reach the place where the red coin star spawns, the hardest star in the game, followed by another ugly section. What most people do is side flip wall kick up here, let Mario grind on the edge, then hold A and repeatedly press B to reach this small surface. That's really stupid, but still better than the intended way, which is wall kicking here, landing on this triangle, turning around somehow and then jump across. If you make it past this section, star 1 is mostly done. There's an unfortunate invisible wall next to a red coin around here, but it's thankfully not all that dangerous. Then there's the bridge section from which you can jump down to get star 1. Fun fact, I got all coins in all courses when I made the hack, like all 179 in Veneno Sphere. The only exception were the 194 coins in Crudelo Sphere, because I could not defeat the eyeball right here. Back then I didn't know the eyeball trick. Star 2 is over here, and all those bright red surfaces are quicksand, in case you didn't know. On the other side you can climb to the top, and there's another stupid part right here. My most hated invisible wall of the game. If you know how, it's quite easy to get around, but the fact that every player will inevitably run into it during their playthrough annoys me to no end. This is also another part where I had to add some elements so you can progress, like the infamous French fry with terrible collision detection. Over here is a hidden sign that was supposed to be impossible to reach, but there's actually 2 ways to reach it. Never ever underestimate determined players. Next up, this area, which sucks too because it has stars 3 and 4, so you have to do mostly the same for both. The only difference is the very end, which is also super mean. Star 4 is in this hole that has a star on every sphere level and requires a timed box that is on a pretty tight timer. Star 3 requires really fast wall kicks on the underside. And if you did all of that, the worst is still to come. Morbid Deadly Puzzle, the second hardest star of the hack, forces you to go all the way through the level and then collect 5 very hard secrets. Even though all courses have roughly the same footprint size-wise, this level feels huge when you have to get here. There's one secret on this steep slope, that one is the only easy one. Then you need to do a lot of wall jumps at the bottom. Secret 3 is over quicksand with a flamethrower at the other side. Secret 4 is probably the worst. At the ceiling and over quicksand with no safe ground nearby. And finally the last secret on top of this wall where the arrow is pointing. This star really tests your patience. And one stupid thing, there's a zipper right here, but its object bank isn't loaded, so it's just the iris of my eyeball and pretty much stays in place. I don't know why I left it in the game, maybe I thought it was funny or something. Anyways, so you got star 5 and feel super proud, but the very next star is even harder. 20 red coins and the unexcusable design sin, you have to reclaim parts of the level to get all of them. Garbage star, and you'll feel hyper relieved when that's out of the way. So, all in all, infamous but not particularly fun. I guess I'll give it a 3.5 or 4, can't quite decide. And here's a little bonus for you. I changed Veneno Sphere and Crudelo Sphere to have the orientation of Lugmillord Sphere. Because I was just curious and I thought you might enjoy this too. So it's interesting to see where the changes end up in the Lugmillord configuration, like these extrusions, or the place where the red coin star spawns. And yeah, let's just have a look around. This is truly unscripted. Let's see what we find. So there was the broken wall. There are some of the changes I needed to do, where you get close to the warp block. Nice, nice. There's the first one, and there on the right is the other one. Okay. And Crudelo Sphere. Here we have the secret area. Here's one, there's one. There's the last one. Where are the other two? Let's flip it. Not here. Maybe on the underside. Ah, there's one. There's the last one. They would be pretty impossible in this configuration. There's another broken wall. That wouldn't really affect you if you played Veneno Sphere. And there are on the left there's the stick with the invisible wall, and there are the additions with the French fry stick right here. Neat. But I think the coolest part is actually Crudelo's intro area, where so much of this wall is missing. That looks really nice. Cool. Alright, and the last bit over here, there should be the small elements on the wall that don't really serve a purpose here. And lastly, where the red coin star spawns. So that's what this would look like. Ztar Zanctuary. Here we have the third Bowser level and also the most broken level of the whole hack. This particular model is one of many where I desperately tried to save the level and ultimately failed. I can't tell what the differences between these models even are, they must be pretty tiny. The labeling also makes no sense whatsoever. This one is called B3 star F_X. I believe the star meant that it includes the black stars floating around, which by the way act like quicksand if I'm not mistaken. I have no clue what the F and X were supposed to signal though. There's actually very little to say about the exterior. I can show you the star locations that are now under Bowser 2. One is right here, after the second room with the pyramid platforms, and on the other side there's the slope room right before the pink bomb. I have my doubts that this purple slope would have been enough to prevent cheating. On a side note, this corner right here would have been a really evil hiding spot for a star. Anyways, let's discuss the interior, which most people skip. I've already made a small video about the original idea for a 30 red coin star, which would have been the hardest star in the game by far. It would have included getting 16 red coins up until the cannon and then the 14 red coins that are still in the final game. 2 players have actually completed the challenge of doing the intended path up to the bomb and then collecting the red coins all in one go, which is basically the 30 red coin mission. They are Sketchup, Yoshi and Pluto, and I'll link to their runs in the description. So let's take a tour around the intended path and I'll think about where I would place the red coins nowadays. The first room is in my opinion already one of the hardest. The purple stuff is quicksand and you need to do very precise and awkward wall jumps. And you can only use the lower sections of the wall since everything else acts like ceilings. This room is entirely skippable by the way. You only need to traverse it once for a star and you can clip directly to a Koopa shell in the central pillar room that you can use to skip the wall jumping. Onto the red coins. Back then I may have placed them at the wall somewhere, enforcing even more awkward wall jumps, but I think a better place would be directly above the platforms, requiring you to do a backflip or side flip to get it. Next, the pyramid room. This one isn't too bad. There are a couple of fire spewing balls that aren't the worst. I would place one red coin here as a hint to where the path to the star is. Let's place the other one above the black pyramid such that a triple jump is needed. And now let's head back outside. This area has timed boxes that are tilted by 45 degrees. Absolutely horrible. Also a contender for the hardest room. And the first one that you can skip entirely, which is also true for the next 4 sections. I think the red coins should be directly on top of the boxes, so you pretty much collect them automatically. There is potential for really ugly stuff here though, like making the player jump down from the tower again, but that would be horrible design. Don't ever do that in your hacks. I did stuff like that in Bowser's Crystal Palace and regret it to this day. Back inside we have the second purple quicksand room. Either the awful collision on the small platforms or the homing amps will screw you over. I'll put a red coin on the very end of this first slope and one in the middle of the longer sideways slope. And that's the first half done, now you get the Koopa shell. This room needs more textures. It's just an ugly bath of dark sludge. Bad visibility is never a plausible design decision to make something harder, it's simply bad. If you haven't seen this room in action before, there are tons of flamethrowers in the walls. There's a one up here, and I'll place a red coin there. The other one goes right in this corner, perfect spot. The ground may have been there specifically for a red coin anyway. The Hefo room. Not much to say here, you use wall kicks to get higher. The red coins are in the center of the 2 larger platforms, but so high that you need to make side flip wall kicks to reach them. Up next, Deadly Sin, an untextured surface that glows green in the game to really rub it in. The red coins are both in the center of the walls on opposing sides, right at the bottom. And finally the sloped room, another really unremarkable one. Not that much harder than the original one. And since it's only hypothetical, let's place the red coins in mean spots. If you fall down here, you can still get out with a wall kick, so let's place one red coin right here on the ground. The other one is right in the middle here over the white stuff, but not too low since that's quicksand as well. And that's it, the bomb is in the next room. Some people have mentioned that this area right here is unused. That's where the Pipe to Peach's castle was in SM74. And someone actually got here with Terrace, which is really cool. This could have been a decent spot for a star, maybe you need to climb a parkour while on the shell. Though I think I already used up all star IDs in Bowser 2. As for the part after the cannon, there really isn't much to say. I really tried to block off this entrance, but that failed as well. So the very hard underground section can be skipped as well, which is kind of the theme of this level. Everything's skippable. It was meant to be the grand finale, the hardest part of the whole hack, but this house of cards collapsed completely. If it was functioning properly, I would have given it at least a 4 out of 5. But as it is, it's maybe a 3 to 3.5. Triarc Bridge. Only few people have ever played this bonus level since it requires all 150 other stars to enter. It has the largest draft of any of my Mario levels, and you can see that I had to squeeze it a bit to make it fit within the level boundaries. Let's get some embarrassing stuff out of the way first. I did not know that arc only refers to the mathematical term. There are clearly 3 arches at the center of the bridge, so it should have been Triarc Bridge, but only in a parallel universe where I made fewer spelling mistakes. The same goes for a sign at the start where I spell prize with a C instead of a Z or Z, but that's a mean word cause they are identical in German. Some people have speculated that this is the spheres just in peaceful, but that's actually not the case. They may share some visual similarities, but aren't connected otherwise. I imagine this level as the only place of Extreme Edition that managed to escape the cataclysm that ruined the rest of the world and remained dormant and hidden until you rediscover it. Originally, this level only had the red coin star, so the total would have been 151 like in SM74. However, I spent so much time on the model that would feel like a waste. So I used the remaining 6 star slots to hide stars, a bit like Easter eggs. Not super difficult, but a nice last fun round of hide and seek as a reward for completing the game. Other than that, I think I placed 10 1-ups and 10 yellow coins, though I didn't check again, so you can look for yourself how many you can find. And now I can show you a secret that nobody seemed to have found. In fact, I only found it myself just now when looking at the model for the video. I had completely forgotten that this exists. If we look at the exit of the bridge and go beneath the ground, there's a red alcove, right next to a huge untextured wall, yuck. I don't recall whether this was supposed to be the spot for a star or something else. It's impossible to reach. I'm not sure if there's any way to even see it in-game. If you use a Moonjam code, you can be the very first person to enter that place that nobody ever visited in 10 years. Neat surprise. Now, I said that Veneno Sphere is my favorite level of the hack, yet I'm still tempted to give Triarc Bridge a 5 out of 5. It does exactly what it's supposed to, and apart from the music disappearing after going to first person, and the minor texture glitch, I don't really have anything to criticize. Oh, and the pillar beneath the red coin star also looks interesting now that I see it. And before we end this video, I want to shout out 2 new hacks which contain some remakes of Super Mario 74 levels. Both are made by large teams and are really worth your time. The first one is Serene Fusion, which is currently the highest rated SM64 hack. Seriously, the top spot. The visuals are absolutely incredible and the custom code is also out of this world. The additions to my old levels are also fantastic. They turned Azure Abyss into a level that actually isn't boring, believe it or not. You really owe it to yourself to play this one. Guaranteed to be a lot of fun. Phenomenal job by Aglab and company. I don't even think my crappy old levels deserve such a treatment. Truly humbling, I feel very honored. And the new levels feature some incredibly unique ideas. The other hack is called Phenomena, and from what I've seen it's more towards the vanilla side of the spectrum, but that doesn't make it less enjoyable in the slightest. This is a pretty meaty hack with 120 stars, and among the many new levels you can find things like Swampy Spring or System of a Town. So these 2 hacks get my full recommendation. And there we have it, a look at all levels from Super Mario 74 Extreme Edition from my perspective. Even though I gave a lot of levels rather low ratings, I believe the hack still holds up today. The difficulty curve turned out really well, and I think the game benefits from having many relatively short stars. So, I hope you enjoyed the video and maybe you discovered something new. If you want to see the game get completely destroyed, I highly recommend Frame Perfection's 157 star tool assisted speedrun. It's a lot of fun, so click on it, come on, do it!